the pressure up. I don't quit. I don't fold under pressure. I'm the best, and I know I'm the best. And you know I'm the best.
What's going on, Cowboy Faithful? It's your boy DMV back with another one. Yeah, man, I missed y'all. I missed y'all tremendously. And I'm glad to be doing this video because, look, I don't want to be giving you guys crap. I don't want to be making up headlines. I don't want to manufacture news, manufacture quotes. But my guy, Jay Tuck, shout out to him. Shout out to Gerald McCoy. They sat down and they did an interview, and there were some gems in this interview. And so what I'm going to do is I got permission from Jay Tuck. I'm going to play back some of those clips, and I'm going to dissect exactly what I felt like was said and how I react to it. So the 3 points that we're going to talk about is Gerald McCoy had some interesting things to say about Mazi Smith. So we're going to listen to what he said, and then I'm going to react to it. The next thing is, you know, pretty much the Dallas Cowboys and how they're treated around the facility, how Jerry kind of pampers everybody and how that correlates to the performance on the field, how that correlates to the competition. And lastly, you know, Gerald McCoy actually talked about, you know, something interesting where it seems like it's the big game and how the Cowboys approach a big game and what happens in those big games. So we're gonna play all 3 of those clips, and then I'm gonna react to them. All right. So appreciate y'all, man. Let's get into it.
Totally different ways. I wasn't saying I was this and I'm like that and I'm going to do this. This is going to be this way. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm going to give you the best version of Gerald I can give you. I'm gonna work as hard as I can to be the best I can to try and bring the city a championship. Mm-hmm. And that's all that I did. Feel like Mazi had a bit of arrogance about him and he played the game that way. There was a lot. I watched a lot of his film. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot that he didn't do that was minimal. I didn't like his effort. One, you were brought in to help stop the run, and he was out of place a lot. You know, his technique was just kind of all over the place. And I don't like putting tags on people. I don't want to say it was arrogance. I don't want to say is it he didn't work hard. I don't want to say he wasn't focused. I don't know what it was. Mm-hmm. But if you look at some of the, you know, interviews prior to, I think he, you know, it was a popular statement or quote he had, I think, where he said, I like to hit or I'm a, what did he say?
He said he didn't like football. He just likes to hit people.
Yes. That, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't like football. I just like to hit people. Well, go do MMA. This is football.
Right.
Like, we play with technique. Mm-hmm. In order to be successful at this level, you have to have great technique. Mm-hmm. And technique is what's going to carry you when your athleticism leaves. Mm-hmm. And to say I don't like football, it's like to hit people. I know the coaches and everybody heard, they're like, oh, my goodness.
Right.
And, you know, I just think whoever's advising him should have said, hey, bro, come on, man. And hopefully, we always room for growth. Like my first 2 years, I got injured.
Now, see, a lot of times these young players today, they'll hear something, they'll hear a little bit of criticism, and they'll go in the corner and they'll go cry about it or they'll curl up. I'm hoping that Mazi actually heard exactly what it is coming from a former Pro Bowl type player who dealt with adversity, who dealt with pressure, who dealt with a lot of pressure, actually, and what he was saying. And essentially what he was saying was, you got to take that pressure, you got to take the bad things that people say about you and use that as fuel. You know, Mazi in that first year did not do the little things that it was going to take to be successful at the position. I agree with Gerald McCoy 100% on that. And I knew that coming out. That's why when I reacted to us drafting him, I was saying to Mark, this ain't who y'all think it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has a lot of work. He's rough around the edges. And that's pretty much what it is. We drafted exactly what it is that we got. But with that being said, there is a lot of room for growth. But it's up to Mazi. Now, I got to tell my son this all the time. You're fine when you're relaxed, when your mental is there. But when you press and when you make things tough on yourself, you are your worst enemy. You make it easy for the competition when you're in your own head. Mazi has got to get out of his own head. He's got to start doing the little things right. You know what I'm saying? You got to start doing the little things right. You can't curl up and crawl up and be up in arms and feel like the pressure is closing its walls on you. You have to get control of that pressure on your own, and you use that energy and that fuel, and you attack it that way. You attack the fuel. You attack and don't allow the people to be right, as Gerald said. You don't allow those people to be right. So what do? You attack that thing every day. You attack it every day. You attack it however you got to do it. But, you know what I'm saying? It's a league. You got to put your big boy pants on, and you got to go out there and you got to perform. And if you don't perform, the people are going to let you know. And that's all I got to say about that. Next clip.
In Diggsy or all of these people competing, there was hellacious competitions going on. Alden Smith and Tyron Smith, same draft class, old buddies. We were in walkthrough and they were going full speed, full speed, no bull rush. Just, hey, if we gonna compete, we're going. Mm-hmm. And it's not the guys' competition or the competitive nature. It's not that they have a silver spoonish thing about them, mm-hmm. but that's just because of how they're treated. Okay. But that's not carried over into practice. That's not carried over into game day. I can vouch for them on that. They do not carry that into game day or practice. Outside of that, yes. Mm-hmm. When they on that field at practice, them guys are not messing around. Mm-hmm. So I can vouch for that. Yeah. The problem is the big game. And at some point, we have to hold the players more accountable because it's always the coach. It's Jason Garrett didn't do this, or Jason Garrett didn't do that, or Mike McCarthy is not managing the game well, or he got out coached. But at some point we have to say, okay, these players are not stepping up in these games. Mm-hmm. If you look at all these games in the playoffs, give me one standout performance where you like, hey man, that dude was he was going in. It's hard to see. There's always a comeback of some sort, or the first game, if they win week one, like the last time, last time they won week one, they beat Tampa. We knew they was going to beat Tampa. Tampa barely got in. We had to freaking win the division, and we had to beat Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers to get in the freaking playoffs.
Yeah. But they were scared to death because it was Brady though. You know what I'm saying? They were scared to death.
Yeah, but come on now. Y'all were just the better team, and we couldn't beat y'all. Whether we came here or y'all came to us, y'all beat on us at home, we couldn't beat y'all. But then you get to San Fran, and here we go.
Right.
So it was interesting to really hear from somebody who actually, even though it was a smaller stint, he was in the building for a little bit. So from what he heard and what he experienced, the Dallas Cowboys players get treated, they get pampered, not like anybody else in the league. So the players get treated well, and there is an aura or facade that, I'm good, I'm this and I'm that. And that's because they're treated so well. But with that being said, the competitive nature, as he said, and I think maybe the zoo that Dalton Schultz was talking about, I think everybody has different perspectives, right? So Dalton Schultz felt like the zoo aspect was something that took away from the competitive nature, and Gerald McCoy felt like, nah, I'm watching dudes go out there and compete. It's just something in them big games as to why they don't show up. And I think that I'm in the middle on this one. I think that there's not enough people that have been in those big games that have come out on the right side of those big games in that locker room to show people how to deal with those situations. So you look at Dalton Schultz, who was a homegrown guy, and he felt like it was too much. But you watch Gerald McCoy, who was somewhere else, who felt like they just got to put it together. So it's interesting. With that being said, though, I don't remember Gerald McCoy having a whole. I don't know if I remember Gerald McCoy having deep playoff runs. I don't remember that. So it's really hard to say, but I think that a cure could be start bringing in 1 to 2 guys. Now, they did it with Gilmore. They did it with Cooks. Now, keep building on that and keep bringing in guys that have had success somewhere else that know how to lean on certain principles in those big games, and they can kind of spill that over until you can get your homegrown guys to understand what that is. Then you can continue to go high homegrown like you've been doing. But right now, there's not enough people having success, and they're all pressing. All right, so let's get to the next clip.
More guys.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's always something. It's always something, you know?
And I feel like that's the biggest problem as of right now with the Cowboys. We can never show that we can fight in our own weight class. So like you said, we can punch down, but when you have a quarterback, whether it's versus Buffalo, whether it's versus the Dolphins, or you playing against a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick, like, can you go out there and beat those guys? And that's like the Cowboys just haven't shown that, it's just like, and I think they have nothing to lean on when they get into the playoffs. Cause you go to that Green Bay game, it's like, I understand that Green Bay was a much younger team, but when you went back and watched the film on Jordan Love, like, they playing some good football right now. They don't turn the ball over. Jordan Love is making the proper reads. He can pretty much make every throw. They had a good run game, had a solid defense. And I feel like they just caught the Cowboys. And like you said, nobody responded.
And sorry to cut you off, but here's the thing. Flaws are always masked in season. I said, and just so we clear, any Cowboys fan watching, this is a Cowboys show. I have the Cowboys winning the division this year.
Okay.
That's me. I have them winning the division. I'll break that down and explain in just a second. But winning the division is not enough, clearly, because you guys have won the division. Winning in the playoffs, getting to an NFC Championship, Super Bowl was the goal. Winning, your flaws can be masked in season because you're playing teams of every caliber. And if you have the more talented roster, go and execute, and you usually can win in the regular season. When you get in the playoffs, everything has to speed up. Everything has to go to the next level, and game planning and execution has to be at an all-time high. This is where your flaws come to light. I said in week 5 of last year,
I'm glad Gerald said it, bro. Your flaws will be shown. And throughout us Cowboy fans, we constantly point out flaws. Like last year, we knew that linebacker was going to be a problem. Guess what happened in the playoff game? Green Bay exposed that. Kellen Moore, the year before, we knew that his play calling against certain defenses was going to be an issue, and it was an issue in that San Francisco game. The defense played well, but the offense stunk it up. And the offense stunk it up the year before. And so your flaws are going to come to light. Like in playoff games, everybody is watching. And not only that, but guess what? They have 17 weeks. The opposite team has 17 weeks to look at your flaws. And if you don't fix them, if you're not constantly getting better, you're going to get exposed. And that's what happens. Teams jump on the Cowboys' head. They constantly come in. They give us their best couple punches. We're always playing from behind in those big games. And that can't continue to happen. We have 17 weeks on their stuff as well. Now, a little birdie told me that the Cowboys last year was preparing for the 49ers. They weren't preparing for Green Bay like that. And it looked like it too. And if you listen to Wanye, when he was on with T. Parsons and a couple of those other guys, he said we just weren't executing. That's what Gerald McCoy said. You have to execute in those big stages. It don't matter who the opponent is. Tug brought it up. When we get to the weight class, we kind of shrink a little bit. We weight bullies. You can't be weight bullies. It don't matter if they're your weight, if they're higher than you, if they're lower. You have to execute when it's time to execute. And that's where the Cowboys fall short. It's nothing other than that. They have to execute in those moments. Sure, they're pampered. Sure, the owner does a lot of crazy things and all of that type of stuff, and the player personnel and all of that. But they have to execute, bottom line. You have to find a way to execute. Now, where I'll blame the front office is go get some guys that can execute in those moments, who have shown that they can or they know how to guide people in order to do that. Your homegrown theory is the blind leading the blind. But that's how I feel about that, man. Appreciate y'all, man. I'm interested to hear your comments on this, guys. There will be more content to come soon. Appreciate y'all. We out. Peace.